Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised. Everyone makes mistakes, but some people are dumb enough to make them on camera. A mixed-up magician makes his face disappear in a cloud of smoke. Two tipsy strippers defend their right to bear arms. And everything else. A first-time skydiver deploys his parachute. Too bad it's not attached. A cut-rate contractor causes a concert to start off on the wrong note. And when a farmer drops his drawers, he has a surprise roll in the hay with a lovesick donkey. If it's off the wall and it's on tape, then it's all here. It's totally outrageous behavior.
We're going!
First-time skydiver Scott Lutz leaps from the plane in perfect form. If he's scared, he doesn't show it, because he wants to look good for the camera. But the amateur daredevil is so focused on his close-up that he doesn't pay attention when the instructors remind him how to open his chute. So when the moment of truth arrives, he pulls the wrong cord, releasing his entire pack. And now he's spinning out of control. Luckily, the absent-minded student remembers one lesson: how to deploy his reserve chute. So, with his terrifying experience behind him, Scott floats safely down to Earth. Thankful he lived through the worst experience of his life. Okay, second worst. Unfortunately, his mid-air blunder set him way off course and into a 10,000-volt power line. Scott survived the electrifying ordeal, but hopefully next time he takes the plunge, he won't pull something like this. At a college football game in Louisiana, it's the Indians versus the Demons, complete with the antics of a fun-loving mascot. Chief Brave Spirit does his best to pump up the hometown crowd. But when he decides to taunt the opposing team's mascot, Vic the Demon, the Chief is playing with fire. After Brave Spirit tells the devil to go to hell, a fight breaks out. The game continues, but the real tackling is on the sideline, where the irate chief lets out a war cry and scalps the competition. Now the demon is out for revenge, but Brave Spirit's head won't budge. After campus police arrive to break up the fight, this Indian has no qualms about declaring himself the winner. But the devil's nose is out of joint, and he tells the chief he's ready to continue fighting. Did either mascot have a brain inside his giant foam rubber head?
Investigation is ongoing.
But it's a clear case of dirty fighting, according to the tough guy in the devil suit.
And I was like, look, dude, we're just mascots. We're just playing. If you don't take another mascot's head off, don't make me mad.
But Chief Brave Spirit feels the devil got what he deserved.
Shane apparently didn't have a strap on his head, which any good mascot would have.
This cheerleader may have lost his head, but the chief says the devil made him do it. A full moon. A car with no driver. It's the spooky tale of...
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
The woman with no brain. When Kelly Wright borrowed her friend's car, he told her it had to be started with a screwdriver.
He had been starting his car like this for a while. Now that I'm thinking about it, I looked and there was some wiring and some wires hanging down from where you put your key in.
Wonder who he borrowed it from. But Kelly wasn't worried. She knows her way around an engine block.
I touched it to the solenoid. I believe it's a solenoid.
But she's no master mechanic. And now the car is out of control.
Started by itself. Is it really? That's what people are saying.
And Kelly's head is spinning as well.
The car took off in circles doing like 40 miles an hour. And around and around. The tires are going.
Police rushed to the scene, but Kelly is nowhere to be found.
You just think, police, you're in trouble. I did something wrong. I should have had keys. Hello.
Instead of searching for the missing driver, the cops decide to stake out the spinning vehicle. And hours later, it finally twirls into the trash, right where it belongs. Although the cops didn't charge Kelly with grand theft auto, they did write her up for making 350 illegal U-turns.
Hey, buddy.
Meet Bobby Black.
Bobby Black. I'm just from West Virginia, and we'd like to have you guys up there.
This hick wants to hang 10 to impress his friends.
Heck, I'd like to try that, but they won't let me have a skateboard.
That's because sidewalk surfing is dangerous if you're drunk.
All right, guy in the blue right there.
Eventually, the skateboarders give in.
All I'd like to say is, I'd love to use it.
We can do it. Let's do it. Come on. Woo! Yeah! Get up there. You the man. Jump up.
But Bobby needs a little coaxing.
Yeah! Come on! Bobby Black!
Finally, he gathers the nerve.
Do it!
But who's going to gather his teeth? For once in his life, Bobby used his head. Too bad it was to break his fall.
He knows how to crash a party. I'll give him that.
A couple of skaters remove Sleeping Beauty from the ramp
Get him up, dog.
and try to remember their CPR.
No, turn him over on his side.
Eventually, Bobby recovers
All right, what's going on there?
and asks for his medicine.
What's up with that, man?
But before someone passes him a bottle, he passes out again. Seems this redneck's quest for fame became his moment of shame.
Coming up, a reckless rock band plays through a storm and finally has a hit. Plus, after drinking and driving, a topless twosome gets busted.
Where are my clothes?
And later, how do you load a lawnmower onto a truck? Don't ask these guys. When totally outrageous behavior continues.
Police suspect the people in this car may be drunk and analyze the clues.
I'm betting they're both smashed.
After a grueling interrogation,
How you doing, ladies?
the girls finally crack.
We are drunk. That's illegal.
It turns out that they just finished an amateur night performance at a local strip club. To overcome their first-time fears, they knocked back a few drinks.
You think I'm supposed to win? Look.
You probably should have won.
The cop walks back to his cruiser to call it in.
Oh, my.
It's something that happens in probably 1 in 25 careers. Fortunately, I was the lucky 1 in 25.
Meanwhile, these geniuses put their heads together and come up with a plan. Maybe getting out of their clothes will get them out of a ticket.
Ladies, come back to the car.
Realizing he has his hands full, the cop calls for backup.
They're coming from amateur night at Trump.
Wow.
And in the fastest police response in history, help arrives to corral the frisky co-eds.
But they'll rape us in jail.
Looks like they can skip the strip search.
Where are your clothes?
Where are my clothes?
The officers are ready to run them in. But amazingly, the girls' little dance burned off so much alcohol that they're under the legal limit. So the officers let them go.
All right, what's your lucky day? Because you're not actually drunk.
Seems like they videotaped this incident for nothing. Or did they?
I did get a copy of it.
And what does he do when he reviews the evidence? Looks like this lawman's taking the fifth. A trick he could teach this pair of party girls.
Where are you guys coming from?
What? We are drunk.
Russia's worst rock band is singing up a storm, even in this torrential downpour. The lead singer croons for the soaked crowd, but they aren't impressed. There's not enough vodka in the world to make this singer sound good. Suddenly, the storm takes a turn for the worse, and the scenery collapses. Looks like Mother Nature's not a fan either. When the audience doesn't respond to her moves, this curvaceous backup girl is crushed. Normally, the guitarist would rescue her. The show must go on. But not to worry. She's back on her feet in no time. This band takes a knockin', but keeps on rockin'.
Please put your hands together and welcome Scott Wolf.
At a magic convention, this second-rate Houdini starts his act with some not-so-sleight of hand. He throws in his trusting magic word.
Bummer.
And does his spellbinding white scarf samba. Now it's the audience that's doing the disappearing act. The would-be magician decides he needs a grand finale that will really impress the crowd. So he abandons his parlor tricks for a mouthful of kerosene. With a flourish, he ignites his torches, assumes a dramatic stance, then lights up the stage. And his face. Now he's emceeing his own roast. So what went wrong?
I still had some fuel left in my mouth, and I tried to disperse the rest of the fuel. When I did that, the fire got bigger on my mouth.
But even after his harrowing ordeal, Scott's convinced that guzzling gasoline is safe.
It's unleaded, so you don't get lead poisoning.
That's comforting to know when your head's on fire. During rush hour, this man's taking a walk on the wild side by trying to cross a 14-lane freeway on foot. Halfway there, the idiot waves and pleads, but the drivers just won't stop. But he comes up with a plan. He sticks his hand in his pocket, pretending to pack a pistol. It's working! The drivers are yielding to his demands. Climbs over a median, reloads his pocket, and continues on. Amazingly, the man reaches the other side without a scratch. Well, not quite. He makes it across 14 lanes of speeding traffic, but doesn't bother checking the shoulder. Although he's okay, he now knows better than to rush across the freeway at rush hour.
Up next, a tired trucker loses his train of thought. Plus, are cigarettes dangerous? Just ask the butthead who built this float. And later, a foolhardy farmer gets caught with his pants down. When totally outrageous behavior continues.
At a railroad crossing in Chicago, the warning lights may be bright, but the driver of this truck certainly isn't. He thinks he can outrun a fast-moving freight train. Instead of stopping, he keeps on trucking. But it's rush hour, and because of the line of cars ahead, he can't clear the tracks. And now, this big rigger's in big trouble. The train smashes into the 18-wheeler, causing a domino effect. So exactly what happened here? A train expert describes the crack-up in technical terms.
It would look like a beer can getting hit by a gorilla. Just smashed it like it was nothing, like just effortless. It rocked the world for that moment.
Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt due to the trucker's stupid behavior. But at least he learned a valuable lesson. Only Superman is more powerful than a locomotive. Anti-smoking demonstrators in Thailand are about to get more publicity than they bargained for. The protesters parade in carrying a giant inflated cigarette. Their message, cut it out. In a symbolic gesture, the spokesman slices the cigarette in half. But instead of a grand marshal, they need is a fire marshal. The frantic sawing creates a spark which ignites the flammable gas balloon. No need to ask if anybody's got a light. Looks like this demonstration is a dud. Thanks to their careless leader, the crowd is inhaling a lifetime's worth of smoke in a matter of minutes. At least these demonstrators prove that cigarettes can be hazardous to your health. Lars has sold his riding mower to his best friend Klaus, and now they're trying to load it onto Klaus's trailer. These two geniuses have come up with a brilliant plan. Lars will drive the mower onto the platform as Klaus steadies it. Clearly, physics is not their strong suit. Although Lars is quickly becoming familiar with the laws of gravity. Maybe he needs a new approach. How about backwards? Finally, lazy Lars decides to get up and apply a little elbow grease. Good thing Lars has on his snazzy gym clothes, because he's getting quite a workout. Wait a second. Could this be success? Nope. The hitch snapped. And it looks like Lars has too. But Klaus isn't leaving without his mower. Now that the motor's not running, the two rocket scientists managed to hoist it into the trailer, proving that Lars would have done better to switch his brain on and the engine off. Down in the West Texas town of El Paso, record rainfall and flash floods wash out the roads. But that's of no concern to this dumb driver, who isn't about to forego his favorite shortcut.
That guy thinks he's gonna pass. I don't think so yet.
Undaunted by the raging waters, the motorist forges ahead. He must think he's in the carpool lane. Pretty soon, he's up the creek without a paddle. His sensible passenger rolls down the window to yell for help. But water pours in and the car starts to sink. And now they're really in trouble. The driver heads to shore, leaving his friend to float away. But then he realizes he's forgotten something. He locks his car, just to be safe. These brainiacs are fine. But next time, you can be sure they'll check the weather report first. Americana Brazil spent millions constructing a concert hall. Too bad the builders focused more on speed than on safety. The orchestra promises an opening night that will go down in history. The audience rises for a rousing rendition of the national anthem. But after the crash of the cymbals, there's another crash. The poorly constructed stage collapses, sending half the symphony into the basement. The panicked musicians pick up their instruments and run for their lives. This bassoonist was told to break a leg, and that's exactly what he did. There may have been no encore, but the orchestra put on a performance that truly brought down the house.
Coming up next, the timeless tale of Booty and the Beast. Get ready for our most moronic moment, when totally outrageous behavior continues.
foolish rancher tries to relieve himself in an empty field, he runs into a frisky donkey. The lovesick creature lunges at the bare butt beauty, who desperately tries to fend off its advances. Seems this critter's feeling romantic. The farmer tries to escape, but the donkey won't give up. You'd think the farmer would understand its need to sow its wild oats. Finally, the sexy beast makes its move and gets the man right where it wants him. No need to saddle up. This burro rides bareback. This country boy learned the hard way that when it comes to love, a stubborn donkey can make an ass out of you.